Get comfortable in your chairs. I know you may have a little bit of butt numbing going on, but this is it for today. So take a breath together. Just feel the walls of the room expand and contract as we do. Beautiful sea level air. There's so much of it here. And feel yourself again connected to the earth. And then through the crown of your head, connected to the cosmos, to the beautiful divine love that fills this room, that pours down onto this planet, that says, thank you, human. Thank you for holding the energy. And breathe that in through the top of your head, down into your heart center, getting ready for your whole being to receive. And just coming into this moment now, knowing there is nowhere else to be, nothing to do, and every opportunity to receive. Letting the love of Kryon and the entourage and those of us here that serve that love, that serve this family, that make us family. That love, that awakening, the gift that we receive together, the honor that we receive from the entourage.
And the first thing I want to do is ask you about your belief. Do you believe it? It's a hard sell, as my partner says, to talk about things that are invisible or you have not been taught or that seem so far-fetched, so eye-rolling, that it seems to betray logic in humans. And yet sometimes the truth is that way because the energy of what you've been taught is so low. The history that you've experienced and accepted and bought into is just filled with misinformation. Again, it has been warped in so many ways by a low consciousness and a humanity that works at a low efficiency. And that is changing. And so all of these things right now, I ask you, do you believe it? And you go even so far as to celebrate the changes you're experiencing in the energy that you have. To many, it is sobering. It's difficult to have joy and celebration when you are concerned about the future. And you hear so many versions of the future. If I could tell you one thing in this evening, that would be the wisdom of Spirit, it would say, stop listening to anyone but yourself. When it comes to what tomorrow will bring, For already you have passed through what was going to be the turmoil and the prophecy that didn't happen. And we continue to say to the human being, how many proofs do you need before you believe it? And yet this has always been the way of it. I remind you of the Israelites in the desert walking for 40 years. That was not an exaggeration. Can you imagine being part of the entourage that walked in the desert in a circle for 40 years? Following the prophet that had led them from slavery. Some of them coming to the conclusion that slavery would be better than walking in the desert for 40 years. Where are we going? What are we doing? When are we going to get someplace walking in circles? And God answered this by feeding them every day, without fail, all their lives. Day after day after day. They didn't have to grow a thing. It fell from the sky. And yet they still doubted. We say to you, how much proof do you need that you're going to be fed every day? Dear ones, you stand on the cusp of things you didn't expect and have not experienced ever before in your history. The bridge to the promised land is that which is human consciousness that you've never seen. How can I tell you you're evolving when you have no model to look at? How can I tell you about something that you've never ever experienced before? And we said, this is where you're going. And so if you sit there and you doubt it with all of your heart, there is no judgment. In fact, it's logical that you doubt it at all. And the whole reason I'm presenting this particular thing is because where I'm going next, you won't believe. You're going to say it's too esoteric, it's too unbelievable, it's too remarkably fantasy. When I start telling you yet again, not necessarily review because there's new information about things you cannot see that no one's ever told you, that is only speculation. And that's beautiful beyond belief. You cannot listen to this channel and have one foot in the old energy. You cannot listen to this channel coming up and weigh it against what your parents told you. You cannot listen to this channel coming up and weigh it against anything anyone has ever told you. Beginning to open the door to remarkable information that makes you so big. And yet at the same time, you realize what's going on. And we'll start this way. The universe is old. The galaxy is the same age. And we have told you this before, that over 4 billion years, this galaxy has been finished. And in some places, the solar systems around the stars completed. And while this Earth was still forming, there was life elsewhere. We have told you this before to give you the information and also the reality that you can see in the stars with your instruments about how old they are. The galaxy was alive and working and functioning with a system of benevolence while the Earth was churning over and volcanoes were going off. That was on purpose. You're not that old, and we've told you that. Geologists, we've hinted at some things before. We want you to rearrange some thinking. You take a look at some things on this planet, the majesty of certain mountains that have risen like slabs and pointed to the sky, and you say, well, this was 1,000,000 years for this to happen, and you look at certain other things, and you say, this took 10,000 years for this river to cut this particular path, and you look at something else. Let me tell you, I'll give it about 100 years or less. I will tell you, some of the youngest mountains that you see in northern Canada were pushed up and you could watch them grow. Can you imagine how violent this planet was at one time? You got to rearrange your thinking of how violent the planet was when it was cooling and when it became active over and over, squashing life over and over by design. While there was life in the galaxy developing just like yours, with cities and civilizations, DNA, they had names, and they knew God. I give you the information yet again, because I want to talk about time capsules, and I want to talk about something we've never talked about before called the template. And I want you to understand how loved you are. That all of this was designed for you. It was designed for today. It wasn't designed for the old energy when you were struggling. It was designed for today when you're going to grow up. Dear ones, when the Pleiadians showed up, they had been through thousands of years of evolution after they had passed their own marker, in their own way, in their own way. We told you they had solved what you would call planetary overpopulation. When they started to live longer, they had the wisdom and the science. And the science was not machines. The science came with the physics of consciousness to be able to make what they needed literally from the consciousness of their minds. To be able to shape that which you would call the reality of travel. There were 3 Pleiadian planets by the time you were seated around the same set of suns. And before them, they had their seed parents who went through similar things. And before them, they had their seed parents who went through similar things. Millions of years of humanity on their planets, knowing God before humans ever showed up. There is a lineage in this galaxy which is remarkable. The galaxy is old, and you're not. And yet, and we say this with all respect, dear human being, you had to come from somewhere. What you brought to this planet was a star Akash, because you had participated in so much of this life by the time it was your turn. That's in your DNA too, but it's not going to be revealed for a very long time. A very long time. That's because you need to work on who you are and who you've been here first. I'm going to make a statement, and I don't want you to get it wrong. You, human being, represent the lowest spiritual consciousness in the galaxy. You're the new kids on the block, and you're just growing up. And all around you in this galaxy, there are life forms with high consciousness, so high, that they were able to come here without craft and seed you. And not go back. Can consciousness ever get to a point where this is possible? And what I want to beg you is to stop dividing human consciousness and corporeal selves with God. You are here and God is somewhere else, and you'll never get together, and that is wrong. The actual premise is that God is in you, and the higher the consciousness, the more you meld into God. The masters of the planet were so profound, you couldn't tell if they were God or not. That's high consciousness. That is possible. An angel comes to visit you. You have no concept of whether the angel is from the great central source or a Pleiadian. That is because you can't tell the difference. It's simply physics. And I want to make a statement. The Pleiadians are not God. They represent the great central source in a task that they have performed for you. And with free choice, if you will survive what is coming, the task will be on you someday to do the same for someone else. This is a large system throughout the galaxy that has never been taught to you by anyone. You are so closed in your spiritual thinking. What I'm going to say next will offend just about everybody. If you're listening to this and you are invested in one of the major earth religions, I would like to ask you in all love a very real question, and that is this. When you discover there is life everywhere, and they come and they present themselves to you, and you see they're humanoid, and you can see they have consciousness and beauty, I'm going to ask you, what are you going to do with it? When your belief is wrapped around a prophet that may have given his life for this planet, what are you going to do with it? Are they going to be part of what you would call the beauty of heaven or not? Or are you going to exclude them? And if you're not and you're going to include them, how do you explain it? How do you explain it? Because it's going to happen. Get ready. You have a spiritual system that excludes the galaxy. What do you think? High or low consciousness? Dear ones, you are part of the whole. That includes trillions of souls in this galaxy. Some souls have not been seated and some have. Yes, you are visited by some who have no God inside but still have souls. I would like to tell you, we know that, you know that. And we've never spoken perhaps of it in this way or this frankly. But let me tell you something. None of them have ever masked an attack. None of them have ever landed on the White House lawn. Isn't that odd? It's because you're protected. The ones who have the highest consciousness in this galaxy are still here. And it's enough to scare away anything that would visit you. It does not have the same. Wisdom has prevailed in the galaxy so that Star Wars doesn't exist. They're wiser. What you do is you propel your low consciousness on everything else, even God. We have told you that. You have propelled human consciousness on the Almighty. You said God is angry, God is jealous, God is vengeful, God punishes. That is humans, not God. In your science fiction, you travel around the galaxy and you war with everybody. That's funny. They were done warring a long time ago. They're very old and they're very wise. you're going to discover as you grow in your wisdom and your DNA starts to allow awareness into your life, that there'll come a day when you will look backwards and laugh at who you were. The time capsules were placed here in an esoteric way. At the seeding of humanity, they've always been here. And what you didn't know is that they opened early and then shut again, because they created something called a template for humanity. And the template was something put upon human consciousness that would look for God. The template looks for God. It's not intuitive for a human being or an animal or anything that simply evolves to look for the Creator. It just isn't. And you did, and you do. That's a template. The template allowed for past life influence called karma. The template allowed for so many things that are programmed into your DNA that work with your spiritual self, so that when you started to grow, it would be ready for the time capsules to finish the job. And they've started. If you don't know what the time capsules are, these things are common information to those who follow my teaching. And I told you before, the beauty of the planet is that as you grow, you've got help. You don't have to do it alone. The time capsules that the Pleiadians left in these 24 areas that push and pull as pairs are giving you a new template. And the new template is going to old souls. For the old souls are feeling the new template start to manifest. And the new template calls for peace. And the awareness that peace is the strength of humanity and not war. The old template left it clean, so you could decide for yourselves. And that was called the free choice. To create what you wanted, and what you created up till now was war. And it never got any better. But when you passed this marker and you showed for over 50 years that you didn't have to have another war, that you started putting things together, that consciousness started changing, the time capsules started opening, and now you have help. And the new template starts to rearrange what is important to the psyche of human beings and goes beyond survival. Now it gets good. The proof of this is what happens next. Let me give you some potentials. There are old energies on the planet doing their best to pull you backwards. There's old leadership in some countries that will try to pull you backwards. There are inappropriate things that have happened in the past, pulled to the future and also to now, that you will look at. And the proof of what I'm going to say is that humanity will not tolerate it. In the past, it's been able to absolutely throw it out of kilter. And you get another war. This time, there'll be such an objection to a consciousness of humanity that now understands that putting things together and allying countries will bring peace. Not conquering. There's one way to get all of the resources. And it's not war. It's put together the countries and share them. And you're just discovering it. Inventions are coming your way, dear ones, for energy that will cost very little, not on a grid system, but individual neighborhoods, water for everyone through inventions, some of them without pipes. These are things to look forward to. Pulling moisture from places you don't pull it from now. Pulling heat from places you don't pull it from now. And having it all free. The curing of disease through processes that were hidden from you before, that are natural, without any side effects. The Pleiadians went through it. They're like you. They're just like you. I can sit here and tell you that many watched it happen. Some of you were there. There will come to you some science from former Pleiadians who will pop in as walk-ins and do the work. Give you the inventions. One of them, who was a Pleiadian, is coming back. And his name is Tesla. He'll give you the quantum lens when you're ready. And we have talked about that before. There is so much here. The template was given to you by the time capsules of the Pleiadians. It's physics, because physics is consciousness, and consciousness was tempered. Every single human on the planet sitting in the magnetic field was affected by the DNA of the time capsules. And the search for God then became intuitive, and it became that which you did. And you found it. You had to decide for a while, were there many or were there one? And now this planet is monotheistic. Still arguing about who can worship the right way. But it's monotheistic. That's about to change, and tolerance is the first to shift, and you're going to see that as well. It's not overnight, dear ones, but it is happening slowly. The fight that you see almost entirely on this planet is internal, or it's spiritual. It's not about resources anymore, if you noticed. It's not about borders anymore, if you noticed. It's about light and dark, if you noticed. That's different, and it told you this was coming. Here you are sitting in it. How many of you had the courage and the guts to raise your hand and say, thank you, Spirit, that I'm alive to witness this revolution of consciousness and move forward? Do you want to come back or not? Oh, you'll be different. Awareness, wisdom. I promise it. I say it again like I said it earlier. Look at your grandchildren. It's already happening. How many of them have looked you in the eyes and told you who they used to be? They know. They may not have the facts right, but the intuition that they have, they know. This is not the first time that they've been here. When you come back, the time capsules will have opened even further, and the template will arise to the Akashic opening of your memory. You may not have the facts either, but believe me, you'll have the wisdom of your past to cooperate. You won't have to go through what you've gone through. Say goodbye to the old energy that would keep you in the dark lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Say goodbye to the old energy that would create in you fear when you're born of what you experienced before. Say goodbye to this. Say hello to an energy you don't expect. It's an energy that allows you to call upon your Akash for what you deserve and you've earned, like a well of knowledge, wisdom, and experience that you can now pull upon like the masters did. This is the promise, dear ones. Welcome to the new human on this planet. This is what we are teaching because we see it and we have seen it before. An attribute that is different for you than anything you've expected, anything that was ever taught, anything you've ever seen. And now you ask, why is it so hard to believe it? And we just told you. Dear human, don't think like a human. Start thinking above that, which would be logical. Start thinking into a future with the eyes of a galactic citizen, not an Earth citizen. And I challenge you to remember it. You have been through it before, also. This is the message of the day. It's a good one, if you believe it. I want you to go from this place not confused, but peaceful in the fact that you're at a time that has been predicted.
As you already been absorbing, feeling, communicating, even transmitting energies, allow yourself again together to find that beautiful space where time does not exist and you are in your soul, in your tenderness, in your lovingness, in your beingness, in your pure consciousness. In the infinite that you are, from Source, from Creative, Creator, of all that is, that you are part of, and that is part of you, in this powerful confluence of energies that we are all creating together with the assistance and the benevolence and the unconditional, unshakable love from the mountain, from the star mothers, from Telos, from your guides and angels that live with you every moment of your life. So take that all in this moment, in pure presence, as you connect deeper with your breath, through your intuition, through your pineal, in the trinity of your heart, your higher mind, your mind of God, and expand your being. Allow yourself to open even more. Love yourself even more. Cognize this beautiful energy of coherence even more. Create a timeless space, a bubble, in the bubble of Mount Shasta, where magic happens, where healing happens, where transformation, change, desires and wishes happen. They happen now. Make it real for yourself. Make it real for yourself. in a quantum state, connecting to the field of all that is, of no beginning and no end. Allow yourself to go there, to the space of no beginning and no end. Where love is always present, supporting you, loving you, embracing you, is there for you always, always, always.
Dear Shining Ones, we have not stepped far away, and we have one thing to say to you. Let the mountain speak to you. Let the mountain speak to you. And this will come as it does. We have watched this in many ways. Perhaps as you are just here looking. Perhaps if you are up there hiking. Perhaps if you are finding a feather or a rock or hearing the water flowing. The mountain is speaking to you. Remember more that we are speaking to you from the mountain. We are always speaking to you from the mountain. Interdimensionally, multidimensionally, we are with you. This mountain, this beautiful node, is an amplifier. What do you want to amplify? What do you need to amplify? What do you desire to amplify in your life? That is what you tell us when you face us on the mountain. Tell us exactly. Make it real. Say it out loud. Stand with your arms stretched out, with your feet firmly planted. Talk to the mountain. Talk to us. And let the mountain talk back. Let us talk back to you. Say yes to being willing to stand in that doorway. A doorway that takes you into the energy of the star mothers, into the energy of the mountain. We are not different one than another. It is the same in different forms. The dense physicality of the actual mountain is one thing, and we, in our multidimensional etheric forms, is another kind of energy. And yet, isn't it wonderful that we're the same? That we speak one language that is echoed by the mountain. As if you had listened to different languages in your world from different countries. You hear us speaking through Meleha in the language called English. The mountain speaks a language of its own. Now, you don't need an interpreter for that. You need only to have your own personal experience, or experiences if you are giving yourself a big blessing. Let us speak to you from inside the mountain. And here is something. There is no wisdom that we have that you do not already have. What do you think of that? Let us say that again. There is no wisdom that we have that you do not already have. But what you don't have yet is access to the layers where it's living. And you probably, since your awakening, have spent a lot of time peeling back those layers metaphorically. When you are here in the presence of this mountain, those layers can be blasted away. And that may not be the most gentle thing for you. So we ask you, when you stand and face the mountain, or before you go to sleep, when you bring it into your conscious awareness, because we know that before you leave, you will have an indelible picture of the mountain in your memory. That you have a conversation with us from the mountain. While you are here, especially, speak to the mountain before you go to sleep and before you rise. There will be an answer. There is always an answer. And there is always love. This indelible imprint comes from your connection to your Lemurian Akash. And no one can change that. Why would you? No one can change it for you. This is a gift. This Lemurian Akash that you carry connects you to the voice of us, connects you to the voice of the mountain, connects you all to that place inside that remembers. You will not be surprised because we're warning you. Don't be surprised if you hear us talking back. Don't be surprised when you hear the mountain talking back to you, reminding you of your own wisdom, of who you are, why you're here, what you leave behind, and then, most importantly, what you take away. So we ask you now to put your hands on your heart and feel the gifts of the mountain inside of your heart. Just know that it is there. Trust that they are there. Breathe and be grateful. Each breath being a yes to receiving, to acknowledging the gifts of who you are and why you are here. And for now, we step back.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. You're opening a portal here, and this particular portal belongs to you. It will close when you leave. And this is the new kind of portal that exists on this planet, because the ones that you counted on, that the planet created, are starting to move. They're going to move into places that are needed for the planet, not for you. You are now in a situation where you start making sense of what I will call senseless things. Now, I'm going to go slow, but even before I do this, the portal is being created right now by you, not on the mountain, but in this room. That is that what I would call consciousness, sacred consciousness, coming together in coherence, which changes things bigger than each one of you, because collectively you're on board with it. So in this portal, in this moment, I want to explain something to you that may make the difference. Esoterics are very difficult for three-dimensional human beings. Very difficult. If you left this entire conference and you went home and your next door neighbor came over and they said, well, what happened? And you said, it was wonderful. I was listening to the voice of the mountain. And they say, well, what did the mountain say? And they said, I have no idea. I don't know what a mountain sounds like. That's typical. It's fine while you're here to talk about these things, and when you leave, they're gone. The esoterics of it often gets in the way of the practicalness of it. What has to happen next, as you sit here in this portal, is cognizing and understanding of what is going on. Putting it in your lap that you can feel or sense or expect. And that's why I'm here. What must occur between that multidimensional energy of the mountain, the star mothers, your soul, and the three-dimensional information that you have that is your survival, that you walk day to day, your culture, all these things? What has to happen is a meld. There must be some way that you receive in a way that you can cognize, instead of waiting for the voice in a mountain, which you have no idea what that might sound like or how it might work. So let's start simple and easy. What is it that the Star Mothers want to give to you? There could be a list, and from the top of it is belief that they're there. That's number one. Even if you don't understand how it is they might communicate, or any guide or angel might communicate, there has to be an understanding in your heart, in your mind, of belief. And my partner went over that this morning. You can't pretend to believe. You can't say, well, I'll pretend to believe, and then if it happens, I'll believe. You have to believe. And that's going to happen through this portal. This portal is set right now for you to feel the love of the Creator in this moment, for allowance of understanding through a metaphor that I'm going to create that you will understand. How does Spirit talk to you? How do the Star Mothers talk to you? And if they were talking, what would they say? The training is going to be done by the humans, not the Star Mothers. The Star Mothers are done with school. It's those who are here now, on purpose, for the training, who will give you the core spiritual truths, the shamanic trainings, the schooling. So what are the Star Mothers here for, you might ask? I'll tell you. They're here to enhance your lives through one thing: intuition. 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 And you wonder why there are more women here than men. Because women have intuition first. The men get it later. Those protectors of your lives, women, they are the ones who will make it possible and lay the groundwork and love you enough so that you can then relax and have peace with the survival in your family, so you can do the intuitive work with the children, with everything else. This is the way it is practiced in so many indigenous places, including Lemuria. Women are designed for intuition, for love, for kindness. They're the ones who have to have all of that to raise their children and more. The women originally started out as the shamans and then lost that through history. And now it is starting to return in a loving way, in a beautiful way, where the world will start seeing who does it better and will say, I want a woman for my priest. I want a woman for my pastor. I want a woman for my shaman. Intuition is the key. And I'm going to give you a sample through a metaphor that all of you will understand of what that's like. There are those who will say, well, I'm going to use my intuition and wait for a Star Mother to use my intuition, and I don't know what I'm talking about. Because I don't know what it feels like when a Star Mother uses my intuition. For centuries and beyond, eons, men and women have been taking to the oceans of this earth. And no more profoundly metaphoric is that I can give you, other than this, what I'm going to give you right now, and that is the operation of a sailing ship. Imagine the sailing ship is there in the water, and it's complete. There's nothing missing. And what propels it is wind. So imagine for a moment the sailing ship is there, and there is no wind. That perhaps might be you right now, sitting there wondering, well, I'm waiting for something from the mountain. Now again, back to your neighbor who says, well, what's it like there, and what happens, and what were you waiting for? And you would say, well, I can't really see it. It's not there. It's invisible. But I know it's coming. That's the kind of talk that a three-dimensional person who doesn't understand any of this will then take, and it's evidence for them that you're a little crazy. So let's ask a sailor, what are you waiting for? And the sailor will say, I'm waiting for something invisible. Well, when's it coming? It's coming when it comes. And what is it will happen? And the sailor will say, it will propel my ship forward. And then you'll say, well, what happens when your ship propels forward? You'll say, then I can use my rudder. Are you getting this? Intuition becomes the invisible wind of the sail in your life that guides your direction of what happens next. But it's complicated. You have to be aware of the wind. And the more it blows, the more the sailor feels what it's doing to the ship. It blows from this side or this direction or that direction. And what happens next to the sailor? It affects which direction you go to capture the wind. You know that. Well, some will say, well, what if I want to go in one direction and the wind is coming from another? Ask a sailor what you do. You tack. You go left, you go right, you come about, the wind fills the sails, and you go, and you go, and you go. But what it does to you, it makes you go left, or it makes you go right. Welcome to intuition. Intuition will start blowing into your life, and it won't sound like the mountain. And it won't sound like a star mother. It's going to feel like guidance and love. Because suddenly, there's peace in what you're doing, which direction you're going. And it will force you, through intuition, to probably turn left or right when you wanted to go straight. And let's say you have to go left, and you want to go left a little bit out of the way because you were going that way, but the wind is blowing this way, and you go left, and suddenly you meet somebody who has a solution. Are you getting this? The wind made you change the rudder. The rudder changed the ship. The ship then runs into a beautiful scenario that you didn't even know you needed. That's love. That's the Star Mother. That's the invisibility of spirit and how it works with those who want to study intuition. Do you know what channeling is? A constant stream of intuition. It is. The channeler hooks in to the other side of the veil just long enough to feel the wind, and that then gives them the messages, the directions, and then it's a translation they do, like you're hearing now, and they deliver it. So a channeler is one who has intuition in the right place for that ship of channeling. Imagine for a moment, you're really headed in a certain direction. You have to be there at the right time. And along comes the wind. And it blows you off course in a very gentle way, saying, okay, I don't know why, but I've got to turn right. And you come about, so your sails are facing the wind, they fill, and off you go to the right, knowing that you're going to have to come back to the left eventually. And you do all that. And then the wind changes, you come back and you tack a little, and you finally end up at your destination, only to find out you missed an accident. You see, if you'd gone straight, you'd been in the middle of it. But you had intuition because the wind came up from another direction. This is the metaphor. A beautiful scenario that promises through the love of the Creator, through the star mothers, or the guides, or the angels, or anything you want to say, that kicks in when you are able to feel it and want to feel it. So many of you living in 3D, 4D, whatever you want to call it, are expecting three-dimensional answers. And that's not the way it works. It's a meld so that interdimensional things, multidimensional things, can fill your sails. You've got to be aware. This is why there are so many more women who are studying this than men at the moment. At the moment. This will change to include the men in a way that is just like it used to be. Full support of what the women do best. Men are not chomping at the bit to have children, to give birth. They don't want anything, and they're not equipped. So right then, I'm in trouble because I have made a demarcation between the sexes. And that's not appropriate in this culture. Don't say that, Kryon, we're all the same. No, you're not. The men are specialists in what they do. The women are specialists in what they do. They come together and complement one another. And they move forward. But the women are trusted more for their intuitive senses of which way the wind is blowing. How much wind will there be? If you really get good at it, startling things start to happen. Anticipation of things that you don't know are coming. How does that work? It does work. You feel the wind come up. Here it goes. I'm going left. I didn't want to go left. That means something's going to happen. And so now you are waiting for it. I expect this. I expect this. I expect this. There it is. Things that you may not think are possible start to drop in your lap. It defies economics. It defies the consciousness of what the government says. It defies all the things that you've been told happen a certain way just because they do. And you're sitting there voiding it all because you got wind in your sails. And others don't. Don't you wish they could? What would happen if this planet started to understand that this is what comes from the Creator in the love? What would Earth be like if everyone sensed that wind just a little bit and started steering a course like this? What would it be like? 3 words. Peace on earth. Coherence. It's already started. Something happened just recently. Did you catch it? There were those who wanted war, and the earth didn't. Did you catch that? That's a first. Your grandfathers, your grandfathers' grandfathers, all had alliances which stuck together between countries, and when war started, they all joined the war. That's the way it worked. Go look. Check history. And suddenly, this time, it didn't. Dear ones, welcome to the shift. You just saw it. This is new on the planet. And it had nothing to do with any of them attending a meeting like this or changing their religion. All it felt was that a little wind filled the sails of integrity and beauty and kindness. And this is not what this earth wants, ever. You got to see it. That is what I am teaching you now. Don't go from this place expecting voices from the air or visions. Expect something a lot more practical, a feeling of intuition that will then guide you to go a certain direction. A mother sits in her bed with an infant in the other room. She's had a big long day, and she's done a lot of work. And the baby is there, and she is there, and she's sighing. And she's about ready to go to sleep when she awakens and says something is wrong. She gets up and immediately goes to the crib in the other room where the infant is sleeping and realizes the infant's in trouble. He has turned the wrong way. He is breathing improperly. She writes it, and the infant takes a breath and goes back to sleep. What just happened? What just happened was the wind filled her sails and woke her up, perhaps, and took her to the place she should be, where she might have even saved a life. That's the shift. That's what's going on with the Star Mothers, with Spirit, with guides, with angels, with you, in this portal. What's next for you in your life? What decisions do you have to make that you ponder right now? And you don't know which way to go. I could go here, I could go there, I could do this, I could do that, I'm not really sure which way. I want you to sit and smile and relax and wait for the wind to fill your sails. And that is the way so many in this place have already been, because they've discovered it works. This is the meld that bridges the gap between the esoteric, the multidimensional, and the practical. This is how what you have developed in belief will then filter in to guiding your life. Put your hands on the tiller of which direction to go and sense the wind. Sailors are so good at this, they can look over the water and they can see the ripples of where the wind is shifting and actually turn their sails before the wind shifts. And that's another story, perhaps for another time. But that's when you get so melded with Spirit that you become much more attuned and in sync and entrained with the other side of the veil. I'm Kryon, in love with humanity. Let the wind guide you from here. And so it is.